speaker is Andrew Perry. He is the CEO of the Finest States team in Ontario. And looking at his bio, he has come up with a method for his clients to help find life methods. So I really hope we get to talk about that because it's so great. Please give him a round.
Thank you. No, I think I'm all good. Everybody can hear me all right? Yeah. Lovely. I just wanted to say, it was really cool hearing everybody, all the descriptions about the tables and all that. I think that it's amazing that our table 7, all of our goals were kind of like extremely similar. And then I think it was table 8 that basically you guys had all the exact same goals. And then it was kind of a common theme throughout this room, which I think is really cool. And I think Aaron at the beginning, when he mentioned or he showed that pie graph of the different people in this room, I thought that was fantastic. Because what I'm going to talk today about is basically, it doesn't matter if you're a property manager, if you're a team leader, if you're a solo agent, or if you're a lender or you're in a flipping business. I didn't realize how many investors there was going to be in this room. So, maybe I can adjust some of my slides to talk about my portfolio a little bit. So, yeah, this is our team here, the Finest States team. I'm going to starting off a talk with a stat. I think is like, starting off a wedding with the Webster's Dictionary, the meaning of love or marriage. But I'm going to do it anyways. So I'm from Ontario, Canada. Does anybody know where that is? Yeah, somewhere up in the north, man. Somewhere up in the north. So I'm actually in a small town called Niagara-on-the-Lake. It's the wine country of Canada. It's similar to Napa Valley. All of our wineries in Canada come from that region. It's really cool because although I live in Canada, I never had to shovel my driveway once in the town that I'm in. It's amazing, just the way that it's called the Banana Belt. And, but before I hopped on a plane, we had a huge snowstorm. So I was like waving at everybody in my town saying, good luck shoveling that, suckers. So this is some stats basically from you guys, the Bureau of Labor Stats in USA. So again, the reason why I'm using not just real estate stats is because everything I'm going to talk about today is going to be, you're going to be able to implement this in any business, as I mentioned. So 20% of new businesses fail during the first 2 years of being open. Oh, sorry. How does the process work to becoming a realtor here, by the way? Do you have to take a course? How long does that course? Sorry? 180 hours? Somebody told me you could take it and get your license within 30 days. Shit. Is that true? Holy shit. So in Canada, it's about 6 months. You have to have a minimum of 40 hours per class. So you can't actually skip ahead. So anyways, in the first section, the first chapter, it literally says 80% of realtors are going to fail in their first year. Did they tell you that too? All right, good. So we're on the same page. 45% failed during the first 5 years, 65% failed during the first 10 years, and only 25% of new businesses make it past 15 years or more. And how many of you are in that 15 years or more? Okay, a few. That's great. And of those people who put up their hands, I'm assuming the reason why you guys are here is to find out how to get to that next level, right? Same reason why all the team leaders and agents are here as well, right? So, okay, so why do you think these teams or individuals or businesses struggle so much with getting to that next level? Well, for me, I believe that they never figured out how to take it to the next level through either hiring the right people or figuring out the systems in which it took to get there, or, which is the biggest theme of this talk, is how not to let their ego take control of their future business. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to teach you how to break those limitations, break that glass ceiling. So, as an entrepreneur, it's only natural to want to be involved in every aspect of the business. Who are the team leaders again? Let me see. Show of hands, show of hands, show of hands. is anybody of these other Dennis, right? Was it Dennis? Other than Dennis, was there anybody in this room who is not selling anymore? Okay. Are there anybody out of those team leaders who want that as their goal, to not sell and just have that residual income? All right, cool. The truth is that you can't do it alone. And to properly grow your business, there is going to be a time, depending on your goals, of course, where you need to kind of step out and let somebody else take control. So, shit. One thing that I'm not good at is PowerPoint presentations. But a theme in this talk here is letting go. So I sent this out to a VA. This is what they came back with. All right. This is me about 6 years ago. I had a suit on that I couldn't afford, and it was from H&M. I'm wearing a sombrero. I've got a glass of wine in my hand. So a little about me is like, I like to fucking party. Or I did. And that was a huge aspect of my life. And I put on the suit. I left the music industry, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And I started getting my first taste of sales. And although my skill set was evolving, my knack for business, my bank account was evolving, my mindset didn't evolve. And it took me a long time to get out of that. So here's a little bit about my background. I was signed to an offshoot of Universal called Class 21 Records. I had a song. It was, you cannot get it anymore, but it was 99 cents. I used to work for LA Fitness. Everybody knows LA Fitness in this room if you're American, right? So they came to Canada about 8 years ago, and I actually modeled my entire business off their platform, and I'll get into that in just a second. Does anybody know who this is? He's from Canada. It's Carl Wolf. You know the song Africa? He covered that. Anyways, yeah, all right. Because I was on a podcast in New York, and everybody's like, "Who's your favorite artist? Is it Drake?" I'm like, "No," but I definitely respect where he's coming from. It's actually Justin Bieber, by the way, if anybody's known. No, I'm joking. It's a band called the Tragically Hip. Anybody? All right. See, the Canadian knows. Anyways, so I lived this lifestyle. I was touring. I was on the road almost, 8 to 10 months out of the entire year. I was the lead singer. I was also playing guitar. I legitimately didn't care about the music. I didn't care about the business. I cared about being able to go on the road and party. That's literally all I cared about. And yeah, right? And that literally transitioned into my first sales experience, which was LA Fitness. I moved up the rankings quite quickly. But again, I was not mature enough to take my business or my life seriously. And this is basically what I look like. Hungover, almost 3 to 4 days out of the week. Look at this guy. He was on something. He's got the devil eyes. Look at that red. So there's a few stages here. There's like the guy who literally could not get off the damn couch because he was way too hungover to do anything. And then you got this guy who thinks he's way too cool, life of the party. He's going out, he's going to the bars, he's going to the clubs. He's meeting girls, right? It's one of those points in my life that even when I was going through the photos to pick for this presentation, it got me very emotional because I can't believe that this was my history. But I'm learning from it, and it's a consistent journey, and I'm happy that I've made it out of these situations. Now, the reason why I put this guy over here, look at him, fresh face, he's shaking hands, this suit, maybe he could have afforded it, I don't know. But what you don't see is behind this smile, as crooked as it is, was all of these two individuals wrapped up in one. So I was doing the podcast circuit. I was in real estate for 1 year, thinking I was king shit. I did 17 deals in my first year, 150K. So it was a decent year, but I wasn't mature enough to handle that type of success. I wasn't mature enough to handle the addictions that were troubling me. I wasn't mature enough to understand that my family who loves me needs me. and I wasn't mature enough to understand that my business needed me. All right, so enough about that. Where am I now? So I am the owner of the Fine Estates team, which is a made up of award-winning realtors. I'm creator of the Fine Life Method. I'm sure each one of you probably have some type of systems that you would package up in for your clients, a client checklist, your follow-ups. I was talking to Christian, right, about how you help service after the deal. All of that is encapsulated in the Fine Life Method. I have 2 brokerage offices, one in Niagara-on-the-Lake and one in Muskoka. Has anybody ever heard of the Muskokas? Probably not, right? Yeah. So it's like your Ozarks, I guess. Like it's cottage country, and I know that because of Netflix. I've never been there. And then I'm also the director of one of the fastest growing independent brokerages in Ontario called Revel Realty. And so Aaron and I, when we first chatted, we were almost around 3%, I think, top 2.8% in and around there. And then by our next podcast, we're in the top 0.8% of all realtors on our board. We did over 100 million in sales volume, and we grew from 4 realtors to 10, back down to 8, and then we're kind of back at that 10 now. So what I've also found interesting is that in Niagara, our market basically stopped in March or April. Did anybody else experience that last year? Yeah. It didn't come back until December, which is odd. Because as Aaron said, who's buying houses in December? Well, this 2022, a lot of people did. I don't know why. But what I found interesting was that almost everybody in this room had one of their best years last year. So what separates, the winners from the mediocre? And I think that what Aaron said as well, last year was, the 2020, 2021, and somewhat of 2022 was a very market-driven market. So it was very easy. Basically, you meet someone, they're interested, they're either buying or they're selling within a couple of weeks. Now, not so much. And also interesting stat here is that 90% of my personal business comes from agent-to-agent referrals. I did 51 last year. So if anybody's in that type of a niche, you understand how important it is to build networks, how important it is to go to these types of events, but how many of us have turned down events because we still are in the day-to-day business, and leaving for a week could almost destroy our business. Does anybody feel me on that at all? Yeah, I love it. Great. I'm in the right room. I was a little nervous. This concept is kind of completely new to me over the past 18 months. I've been implementing it in my business. So I'm glad that we're all kind of in the same areas of our business and goals. Okay, so this is my team now. We're called the Fine Estates team. We're very involved. We have a hockey team. We support baseball teams. We actually have a show that we're working on called That Fine Life. It's, the difference between Niagara-on-the-Lake and Muskoka real estate. So it's going to be an interesting pilot. Happy for you all to see that. Okay, so I'm going to kick things off with a little bit of an analogy. Has anybody heard of the flea in a jar analogy? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So back in 1960, there was a researcher who basically grabbed a whole bunch of fleas. They put them in a jar without a lid on. So what do you think happened? They all jumped out. Now, what they did is over the course of the next 3 days, they grabbed those same fleas, put a lid on the jar, and then after 3 days, they opened the lid, and what do you think happened? They stayed in. Man, thanks for supporting me up here, giving all these answers. They stayed in. So I have 2 questions for you. Are you limited by your thinking from experience? Because I don't know about you, but every conference that I went to in Canada for my first 3 years was like, okay, in order to grow your team, you personally need to do 20 to 50 deals. And before you do that, do not make any moves about hiring an assistant or a buyer agent, etc. That wasn't the life that I wanted to live. I have a number 1 agent. Her name's Kate Broddick. Her and I are really, really good friends. She's been the number 1 in her marketplace for 7 or 8 years. She does 50 deals a month. And she works with buyers and sellers consistently. But I don't know how she takes weekends off, because to me, that's virtually impossible for me. I'm off at 4 o'clock every day and I don't work weekends. It's one of these systems that I've implemented that has completely changed my life. So, second question, are you a leader placing an invisible lid over your team? Does anybody know? Just shout out one word, it's all right. The number one word that makes or encapsulates a good leader. What do you think is the number one trait of a good leader? Communicator, yeah. Listening. Somebody said something? Loud. You got to be loud. Anticipation. I say that because who here got into the business to be mediocre? Nobody. We got in this business to grow our business. And in order to grow, you have to anticipate your strategy in your moves. Oh shit, I thought I took this out. So here's a little cartoon drawing. Anticipation, action, reaction. You guys know what the word anticipation means, but this is where I was. So when I was on the podcast again, I was just coming out of this section of my business where I was on the road, I was doing podcasts, I was doing conferences, I was meeting people, I was filming the TV show, and my business literally almost collapsed. It was incredible. We goose egged 0 deals August and September. Expenses still had to be paid. I had to step back in the business. And as soon as I stepped in, I got 5 deals done. And it was like we were back on track. But that's not what a good leader should do. A good leader should be able to step away from the business for periods of time without the whole business crumbling. All right, so what changed in my business, though, is that I realized that I'm a priority. I was so stressed out about how I was going to get these deals done, increase productivity, and even pay our staff at one point. But I wasn't focused on the who of my business. So at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you some book recommendations and take a picture of it, download it. So a few steps here. Step 1, build a strong support system. Who here has full trust in their admin teams? Everybody, I hope. And if you don't, hopefully the rest of this presentation will help. It's more important to make you a priority, so focus on your health and all that. So step 2, who here has taken the principle of promoting from within their team? Does anybody have I forget your name, I apologize. Yep, Elliot, right? You just hired your first COO? Okay, how's that process like?
Great. It was stressful, but
Yeah.
great.
Why did you hire a COO, by the way?
I was tired to have to figure out the how of doing things.
Oh, it's like you read this presentation. So it's the how, it's the who, not the how, right? And so where did that person come from? From within inside your organization, or did you?
It was outside.
Okay, so you went on that search to find your number 2, which is great. Who here has read Rocket Fuel? Yeah, some of us, that's another good book. Or Traction? Boom, I love it. So it's about finding your number 2. 15 minutes, all right. A lot of us, do you guys have senior sales agents here? Like on your teams in promoting? Right. So what we've done is that we've delegated tasks to our employees as tests. I had my admin take over my inbox. I've had our senior salespeople take over our sales meetings, take over our training. It's about giving them that extra little bit of responsibility to find out their strengths and how they can help you. So 3rd, outsource non-core tasks. I think Aaron was talking about VAs earlier. So, and then Shelby and I were talking about, I think it was you, Shelby. They were talking about, no, it wasn't. I'm sorry. So about offloading all of our client care and customer services, and of course accounting. Does anybody do their own accounting in this room? Okay, so you do? Okay. So most of us have learned, if you take one thing away from this presentation, we all know that doing our accounting, did anybody do their own accounting in their first year? How long did it take you, Aaron? Yeah, it took me 12 hours. So I basically took that entire principle. Number one, I was terrible at it. Number two, it took way too long. Took me out of the business for too long. I couldn't do deals. And I got audited in my first 2 years. So if you've ever been audited, it's an absolutely terrible process. So non-core tasks, hiring VAs, bookkeepers, super, super crucial. Fourth is collaboration. So we try to collaborate with a lot of PR, media, local charities, and sponsorships. So here's just a quick example, is we were having our client party, and we teamed up with the town, and we said, hey, look, we want to sponsor an entire family. Do you guys have Family Day as a holiday here? So in Canada, the last Monday in February, everybody doesn't work. We just spend time with our families. So we rented out the hockey rink, and we collaborated with the town, collaborated with the local newspaper. We didn't intend for them to put us on the front page, but do you think being on the front page of your local PR or media is a benefit? Right. So it's just about getting creative and thinking outside the box, and who can you collaborate that has influence in your area. So we not only, are there any small towns here where newspapers still exist? No? Okay. So we're in a town of 14,000 people. We have 3 newspapers. So again, it's about getting creative, thinking outside the box and what works in your town. So by collaborating with these side brands, you can leverage not only their staff, their time, their marketing, their events, etc. So podcasts, here's some examples. Podcasts, collaborate with other realtors. Does anybody else love collaborating with other realtors in the region? Do your brokers have a problem with that? You know, my old broker, when I first started, he was wondering why I was interviewing other agents. Charities, sponsorships, stuff like that. This guy is Simon. He's a 18-year-old athlete who just represented Canada on the team stage. So, you know, collaborating with that type of a brand might not come off the paper as something that, you know, somebody in real estate should be sponsoring, a professional athlete. But the calls that we got in from their family thanking us because he couldn't afford to get there otherwise. This is my definition of a CEO. The team's success is directly related to my ability to choose the right leaders, communicate expectations, offer support, and expand the brand to grow our authority and market share. What's not up there? Anyone? Sales. Do I need to be, I'll tell you this, if you're the 80% top, if your total gross commission is 80% directly related to you, that's why your business isn't growing. You need to find a senior sales agent, promote them to a VP role, give them those extra opportunities, and allow them to become the 80%. If your business makes up 80% of the entire team, you will not grow. How are we for time? Where'd she go? So I guess we're still good. So fifth, opportunity. I know I said the biggest takeaway, but I think this is actually going to be the biggest takeaway because I've already written it in the presentation. So the biggest takeaway is promote your good people. Give them extra responsibilities and create those growth opportunities. So this is our VP of Sales, Crystal. She started as like a cashier at Avondale Dairy, which is a convenience store. Within 6 months, we took her from the part-time agent to a full-time agent. Within 12 months, we promoted her to the VP of Sales. And now she does 80% of the business. Not only does she delegate my business, my buyers, across the team, but she takes care of every single seller. I go with her to the original appointment, to the first appointment, and she takes over everything from there. Here's just a quick checklist. I can send this to you, by the way. I know we're quick on time, so I'm not going to go over everything. But here's my director of ops, COO. The director of ops is directly responsible for our min team systems, client care, recruiting, events, and our community collaborators. our VP of sales, the growth of our agents and their income is directly related to you and your ability to have a positive mindset, training, support, accountability, recruiting, and strategies for events and campaigns. So if anybody's wondering, okay, well, what do I actually get these people to do? That's there. I can actually send you our full job descriptions if you like. So here's the process that we take to advance opportunities and promote growth within our team. So they start out as a sales agent. So I'll just tell you this. We've been a team now for almost 4 years. Our oldest sales rep on that team has been there for the entire time. And so how do most teams, who here has a problem with retention? Good. Oh, look at you. So I know my first team did. All 4 people left. I started a team, had 4 people right off the bat. Within 3 months, total collapse. I didn't have any systems in place, and I didn't have the right leadership mindset. So this is how we start our sales team. Sales agent, promote them to a mentor. This mentor gets paid per deal for how much so for example, they put in solo one-on-one training with the newer agents. They help walk them through the contracts, help them walk through a business plan, and they get a percentage of that sale. Now, senior sales agent. This person has a more involved role, group training, events. They start to become more of ambassadors for the team, walking, talking billboards for the team. They have some recruiting roles. And then finally, the VP or regional sales. So this role is literally going to replace you. And remember how I said I replicated LA Fitness's structure? If anybody's ever been a member there or has ever worked for LA Fitness, basically they have a general manager of sales and a general manager of operations. They all focus on one thing. As a leader, my focus is on expanding the brand, meeting people like you, making those connections, and building my network so that we can build market share and brand awareness. My job is not to sell. And if it is, we'd be in trouble. Like I said, back in August and September, I almost had a mental breakdown. Okay, and then so on the admin team, we have the same process. They start at front desk, they move up to admin manager, director of ops, and a regional VP of operations. So there are companies like EXP that make it easier to run this type of a play. I work for a traditional brokerage, and it is a little harder. There's a lot of that overhead. However, that revenue share, that downline, works the exact same when I'm opening a brokerage and running a team within it. I have choices. People can either join the team or not join the team. However, if I didn't have a VP of operations or a general manager, whatever you want to call them, in terms of our operation systems, we would not be able to grow. All right, so how much time do we have? We're basically run, right? Oh, nice. Good, thanks. So leveraging other people's time and effort is critical to growing your business. By delegating tasks, you can free up your time to focus on growing that market share. I understand we all have different goals, but as I mentioned before, I mean, how many people's goals, number 1, number 2 is their family, right? Everybody? If you want to sell at this absolutely high level, there is no way that you're going to be able to do it without this type of support. If you want to be involved and still sell, that's completely up to you. Everybody runs their business differently, but this is basically the starting system that you can use to help leverage other people's time so you can focus on yours. So this is me now. I get to spend time speaking with y'all. I always wanted to say that to a group of Texans. This is my family. We're happy. We've got 3 boys, Hudson, Cade, Jagger. Hudson's 7 now, Cade's 3. And then 12 months later, we had Jagger, who's almost has the same birthday by 2 days, 12 months apart. I get to spend time skateboarding, doing things that I love, traveling. Like I said, had I had, come to last year's event, who knows? My business might have completely crumbled if I didn't have the right systems in place. So as promised, I'm going to give you some really good books. Take a picture of this. Dan Martell, Buy Back Your... I believe you interviewed him, didn't you? Yeah. So watch that podcast. Dan Martell basically wrote the exact book of the life and systems that I was trying to implement and wanted. Next is Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. This is an amazing book. People get too caught up in the how of the business that they completely forget about the who. Who's going to help me get there? You know, I'm not good at designing presentations. I'm not good at accounting. I'm not good at writing property descriptions. Hell, I'm not even good. Did anybody notice that I have a team full of women? Anybody notice that? So the communication on our team is important. So if I was the only leadership on the team, that would explode quickly. I don't care what you say. Men and women are different, and we both react to things differently. We all share the same goals, but how we communicate is different, in my opinion. So VP of Sales, Crystal Simons, absolutely kills it. She takes that off of my plate because sometimes I put my foot in my mouth, maybe like I'm doing right now. And then last but not least is take out your phones, scan this bad boy, and add me to Instagram, and I'll follow you back. That's it. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time today. What's that?
Let's stay up here for a second.
Yeah, man.
Where's the mic? I thought there was going to be one up here, but there you go. No. Sarah's got one. All right. So a few things before Andrew gets down. I wanted to ask the room for questions. I have some questions that I want to ask, but I want to give you guys a chance first. But with this one too. So, or if you just have something to tell Andrew, like, hey, I really like that you said this because I'm going to apply that right away. So it's one of the ways we get to learn in these environments is when you say that, it reminds everybody else, like, oh yeah, that was my thing. Right? There's a page in the booklet that has Andrew's picture on it for notes and that sort of thing. So whoever wants to ask a question, you can definitely ask a question. But I would like it to start with, hey, this is something that I learned that was great. And then here's my question. Or you can say, hey, this is something I learned that's great.
So I think the mentor piece that you incentivize that was really cool. Because I think it's so important when people, you want them to take more of an active role, but what's the motivator? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would like to dig more into that a little bit. Like how did you figure out what price to do? Like that kind of just the thinking around it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So our brokerage actually implemented that about a year after I got with the brokerage. So basically it started out as a new agent would come on. We would help them with their business plan, and then they would kind of go off on their merry way. And then we were noticing a lot of, we don't have monthly desk fees. So we had a lot of people coming in that were almost parking their license. You know, there's no real motivator. So not only did we start a mentorship program, but we also started what's called Revel-Ed. So it's 30 live classes that are going on throughout the year. But what we were finding was, it was 2018. We had a blip similar to COVID, but not as crazy. Multiple offers, offer dates, selling in 7 days or less. And we couldn't get our mentors to pick up the phone fast enough to provide advice to our mentees. So what we did is we had to, consider what was the brokerage taking and what was a fair amount that we could pay the mentors that made sure that we weren't losing money, because it's that old saying, it's easier to, or cheaper to to hold realtors than to acquire new ones. And it's basically just the blood, sweat, and tears and all that effort that goes into making sure that their business becomes a success. So we had to pay them in order to motivate them to pick up that phone at dinner time when, they didn't want to be bothered.
So what do you pay?
7.5% per deal. Yeah, so it's a 70-30 split for all of our rookies. And the way that works is that 30% goes to the brokerage. Of that 30%, 7.5 goes to pay the mentor that's helping. Yeah.
Are you assigning so when you have a seasoned agent, you're assigning them right away, so that's their to-go person?
Yes, exactly. So for 12 months, 24/7 almost, you get access to that mentor who reviews all your paperwork in the first year. So, there's another stat that I always like to say in that first recruiting meeting is that 80% of people do fail in their first year. And a lot of that is not only because, they don't have the right support and training, but a lot of them get sued in their first year. So they back out. They can't financially do it. So that's where we come in as well.
So, Andrew, what would you tell people when you talk about if you're doing 80% of your production, you can't grow?
Yeah.
I know from hearing from lots of people, that's also terrifying, right? Like people transitioning from that being an agent to having a team of saying like everybody would rather make money not doing the transactions, but there's also this fear of, well, I'd be giving away most of my income. So what would you tell people if they're struggling with like stepping out of that and like, well, if I'm not 80% of the income, like what happens when I lose half my income because they're not doing as much, or because you have to grow essentially 5 times in order to cover what you missed, right?
Exactly. So I was having this conversation last night with an Austin realtor, Christy Leonard, and her and I were speaking about, that's not what I want to do. I'm making as much as you by myself, and I don't have to give any of it away. So I'm like, well, that's an interesting prospect to me because we all have one life. And at the end of the day, do you want to be harassed by your clients and your team 7 days a week, 24/7? Or do you want to take that time to enjoy your life while still making the income you desire? So that's kind of my first pitch, but there is going to be some growing pains. In my first year, let's just put it this way. Before I started the team, I was making anywhere between 600 and 800. My actual take home in my first year with the team was just below 300. So massive gap. However, think about, we did 1.2 in GCI. So all of that extra money went back to reinvest into the business. And that was the biggest jump as to why we went from 3% down to 0.8.
So it's not abnormal to actually lose revenue for a little bit, but it's more like big
Yeah.
picture. It's almost like buying a rental instead of doing a flip. Long term, it's going to pay off more, putting it in that way. Other questions for Andrew, or just something you like to be said.
I can go back. Okay. I really do like that you went into the mentors. My question I raised earlier was how long the facilities stay within that mentor. Because that is my goal by the summer is to start mentoring. Like I typically have mentees right now, but they're not like official. And because I want to be a full year on myself learning my belt before taking on that challenge. And I just really appreciate that you've been mentioning like the system of how to go to that because I do want to just live my best life, go to Disney with my kids, my business, keep taking care of myself. Thank you.
Right. So was there what's that? Just a okay, good. Yeah. Well, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
I don't have a question. I just appreciate you being raw, real, authentic. I feel like, the party, that whole thing, and kind of just being honest about where you were, where you're at, what it took to get where you are now, and, just appreciate that. So.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a consistent struggle for me, man. It really was. Just because you're going from this life of, people singing your lyrics right back to you in the middle of a stage, wanting to party with you after. And it was like, it was a fake life. But hey, I obviously enjoyed it for 10, 15 years, a little too long, right?
Yeah. Well, Andrew, thank you. Everybody, let's give Andrew.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Brock, if you could switch the mic with her headset and Andrew for a second. So I appreciate that. From
There you go. Thanks.
addiction and other things that I had to overcome.
Thanks, man.
before.
Appreciate it.
Really, really good. And that's
Thanks,
something
buddy.
that
Appreciate it.
I love about real estate. There's no ceiling, there's no barriers. You're in trade. You're in control. You can be from any background.
Sick.
Still come out the other side.